All right, man, peace. So, brothers, I've been getting hit up by a lot of Carmelo Anthony's more ardent fans claiming that I was in the wrong when it came to many of my appraisals about the future Hall of Famer, Carmelo Anthony. These dudes are coming into my comment section talking about, you were wrong, Chronicles. Look at what Carmelo Anthony is doing with Portland. He can still play. He's lighting it up. I'll say this. It's been an extremely small sample size, and as we know, it's a very long season. He happens to have joined the club at the right time where they've hit a very soft portion of their schedule. Still, all in all, I'm willing to give Carmelo Anthony a lot of credit because he clearly is in much better condition this season than he was last year with the Rockets or the year before that with the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's very obvious to me that he's lost about 10 to 12 pounds. His conditioning is much better, and he's making much more of an effort to play a modernized form of offensive basketball where he's catching the basketball, making quick decisions, shooting, or moving the basketball, something that he should have started doing 5 years ago. If Carmelo had started doing that 5 years or so ago and adapting to the quote-unquote evolution of the NBA game, I would not have been as incendiary as I have been in many of my critiques of how he plays basketball. You have to stay updated with the times. You either adapt or you die. Many of the subscribers that I have think that I am a Carmelo hater, quote-unquote. I do not hate the brother. I'm happy to see him do well. But the fact of the matter is that he has been tone deaf over the majority of his career. Just facts. At the start, he was very competitive with LeBron James, as he should have been. But there was a portion where if he were a futurist or a three-dimensional thinker, he would have said, I should join up with D. Wade and LeBron in Miami, and he would be a three-time world champion right now, no doubt about it. And after the quote-unquote Hedo dynasty in the Eastern Conference came to an end, he could have left, joined the Knicks or some other franchise, and scored as many points as he would have wanted. He would have been considered a championship-level player, someone to build around, and his legacy will be completely different. Max Kellerman is also someone who has been critical of Carmelo Anthony, and rightfully so. Carmelo's on-again, off-again wife, Lala, has decided that she's going to attack Max Kellerman on Twitter. And look, she's doing her fake wife thing. Remember, she's an actress. So it's her job to act as if she's going to quote-unquote stand up for her man when they're on the ins as opposed to being on the outs. As we all know, all it's going to take is another photograph on Instagram or on the internet of Carmelo with a thotty for her to exclaim to the public that she doesn't care about niggas once again. But, we'll let her do her for now. The point being, good for Carmelo. I'm very happy for the brother for as long as it lasts. It's not going to last that long. He has recently been awarded the Western Conference Offensive Player of the Week, which pretty much is charity. We are in the quote-unquote alleged holiday season. So that was an early Christmas gift for Carmelo Anthony because he did not deserve it. Why did the NBA do that? Because they know that he probably was forced out unceremoniously or in a very unfair way from the Houston Rockets, not picked up by anyone else. And they know that for all intents and purposes, this is most likely going to be his last stop in the NBA. The Portland Trail Blazers really fit him perfectly. That's why I did a video called Desperate Times Demand Desperate Measures. Right now, Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum, they're in a portion in their careers where they have to win now. And anyone who's willing to come there that has a name, they're going to welcome them. Carmelo Anthony never wanted to go to Portland. Why is that? Because he knew that they were not a top-tier team when it came to contending for a championship. He's at the point now, though, where he'll take whatever he can get. And as we all know, the Western Conference Offensive Player of the Week should have been James Harden. The man averaged 42 points a game for the week, and they gave the damn award to Carmelo Anthony. So all this has done is stoke the fire in the hearth of the Carmelo Anthony fans. Good for you guys. Enjoy it now while it lasts. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Carmelo Anthony's return to the NBA is just 2 weeks old, and he's already being recognized, Max, for his contributions. The league on Monday named the Portland Trail Blazers forward its Western Conference Player of the Week.
Carmelo really should have won the award for Comeback Player of the Week because that's really what he is.
Blazers went 3-0, beating the Bulls twice as well as the Thunder. Anthony led those efforts, averaging over 22 points, over 7 rebounds, and over 2 assists.
Good for the brother. He's back remotivated, regalvanized. Something that he should have been the last 5 years. Remotivated, regalvanized. He's not a good enough natural athlete to go out there 5, 10, 15 pounds overweight. He's someone who would have to constantly stay ahead of the game by being in immaculate condition in order to compete in the NBA into his 30s.
Max Kellerman.
Yes.
Do you owe Melo an apology?
No, I don't owe Melo an apology.
I agree with you, Max. You don't, and neither do I. Not yet. Now, if we're in April, early April, and the Portland Trail Blazers are a 6 seed, and Carmelo Anthony is averaging 19.5 points a game on 47% from the field, then I will give a much-deserved apology to Melo.
Fact, Lala tweeted at me, or about me anyway. Do we have that? Do we have the tweet?
Let's get the tweet.
Someone said that I should apologize. He never really hates Melo. He's been rooting against him for years. He's counted him out a long time ago. Well,
she's a fangirl, and normal quote-unquote modern-day wife, when she's on the ends, she acts like she's willing to defend her husband to the death. Once again, next week she might be on the outs and claim that Carmelo Anthony is a bum, he's a bad father, bad husband, so on and so forth. Let's keep in mind that they've been in a quote-unquote open marriage for the last 10 years or so. It's just that she gets upset with how publicly he embarrasses her for just doing him. Her options are so limited right now, she's in her early 40s, that she knows that her only relevance is hanging on to Carmelo, very much in the same way as a Gabrielle Union. So that's what most of these quote-unquote marriages are actually about. They're really just more business arrangements. I saw her at one of the games holding up her phone so that Carmelo could see his son on FaceTime, trying to act like she was the doting wife. It was a big joke. Once again, the broad was at the Essence Music Festival just a few months ago, talking about how she didn't give a shit about niggas. The broad was on stage, 40-something years old, with a microphone in her hand, talking about, I don't care about none of these niggas, because she was mad that Carmelo was on a yacht with one of these little thotties out here.
she's right that I counted him out a long time ago. I have not been rooting against Melo for years. That's incorrect.
First of all, let's give her props for defending her man right
absolutely,
there.
sure.
Bullshit. If you're going to quote-unquote defend your man, then you defend him 100% of the time. You don't get on television or in a public venue talking about you don't care about these niggas just because you think that quote-unquote your husband embarrassed you, knowing damn well that you guys have been in a consensual open relationship for a very long time. I just did a video about that concept a week or so ago. In this case, it was a business arrangement. Everyone knows that NBA players can get just about 90% of the females in the stadium, in the arena, wherever they go. So she knew what she signed up for. For her to act like she was so embarrassed, to me, it was very, very disingenuous. And for her to now come back and act like the loyal wife, it's whatever.
In fact,
and Molly Karam, if you're going to eat fried chicken during the commercial break, at least make sure that you have some water to wash it down with. You look real stupid right now.
Like, she has a vested interest in this, obviously. I'm
absolutely
going to be objective. I don't think you should be, nor anyone would accuse her about being objective about Carmelo. Look, I identified Carmelo as the best player in the country when people were talking about TJ Ford at Texas and no one was picking Syracuse at the time. I was the host of Around the Horn. I picked Syracuse to win the whole thing. I picked them because they had the best player, Carmelo Anthony.
Carmelo was the best player in the country for that one season at Syracuse, no doubt about that. He was dominant. Great passer, too. That's why it's always amazed me how limited he's appeared to be in the NBA when it came to his passing, because he played very much like a Larry Bird that 1 year in college at Syracuse.
I was very happy that the Knicks got Carmelo Anthony. When everyone was saying, hey, when D'Antoni was coach, Lin's moving the ball, Jeremy Lin, and when Carmelo comes back, he's going to be a ball stopper, I said, I turned out to be wrong.
Absolutely, you did. As a matter of fact, I remember when the Knicks were in talks to trade for Carmelo Anthony, I always stated from the jump, they had no business trading for someone who was going to end up there anyway. And in my view, the only reason why Carmelo really wanted to come play for the Knicks is because his wife, Lala, was desperate to get to either LA or New York to help propel her D-level acting career. That's what put the battery in Carmelo's back to force that trade when he was going to be a free agent at the end of the season anyway. So what he did was he used the Brooklyn Nets as leverage against the Knicks to force them to trade for him. And this was near the end of that period in basketball, what we call the hero ball era, where you had one player, a perimeter player or a wing, who will play on the elbow and just jab step, pull up. That was Melo's game throughout the 2000s. And he was relatively lethal in that era. But that is a bygone era. It's taken him a while to catch up. He finally seems to be catching up. Good for him.
I was pro Carmelo Anthony. Then he got old and he wasn't as good. And at the same time that he was getting older, the league changed from under his feet.
Absolutely.
Making him a less relevant player. And then his own ego didn't seem to catch up with that.
Not at all.
It's not that she's absolutely right. I counted them out a long time ago.
As have I.
About that, so far in a very small sample, he's proved me wrong.
Stress, very small sample. The dude's only played in like 5 or 6 games thus far. And there's dudes all up in my comment section. You were wrong about Melo. Melo back. Let's see how the brother looks against the Lakers, the Clippers, some of the better teams in the Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets, etc.
Situation in Portland. I've never rooted against Carmelo. I root for Carmelo. Always have. First of all, he got Offensive Player of the Week in the West, right? Do we have the graphic, the Offensive Player graphic?
Max Kellerman getting receipts.
We'll get that.
Come on, you guys are ESPN and it takes you this long to bring up graphics?
Okay. Here's what these players did this week. Did Carmelo Anthony deserve the Offensive Player of the Week? No.
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, those are just 2 of the players that clearly deserve the Offensive Player of the Week over Carmelo. I would bet that we could find about 5 or 6 other players in the Western Conference who deserve Offensive Player of the Week over Carmelo. It's very obvious that the NBA understands that this is a feel-good story heading into the quote-unquote holiday season, and they're going to try to play it for all it's worth.
He did not. It was, and I don't want to take pity on Carmelo.
Why not? Everybody else is.
Deserves much more than our pity. That's ridiculous. Now, there's no reason to overstate what he's doing by comparing him to superior players like Harden and Doncic. I will say this for Carmelo. Not only is he proving me wrong in terms of the level he's still capable of playing at, which is very high, but guys, this is the most...
He seems to have accepted his role as a tertiary offensive player. And on a team like Portland, Carmelo understands that there are going to be nights, due to the fact that Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are in awe of him, that he might get to be the primary offensive option. He was never going to be that on the Rockets or on OKC, with Russell Westbrook on OKC and Paul George on that team as well, and with the Rockets having James Harden there. He was never, ever going to be the primary option on the Houston Rockets. On the Portland Trail Blazers, those 2 guys are in awe of him and they're desperate, so they'll actually feed him more. There was a game where Carmelo waved off CJ McCollum, who came up to either get the basketball or set a pick. He could never do that to PG or Russ or James Hardhead. No, the next time out, they would look at him and say, dude, do you know what team you on? You better give me the damn ball when I call for it. Carmelo knows he could flex a little bit on the Portland Trail Blazers.
He's doing it in wins for a team that was losing. They weren't winning as much. Then he shows up, puts up big numbers, and they're winning. Carmelo, congratulations. But I don't owe him an apology. He was cut by 2 teams, 1 team after 10 games.
Let him know, Max Kellerman. Tell the truth. Tell the truth for once in your damn life.
Couldn't play defense because he couldn't even hit threes. I am just saying, Stephen A., my opinion is based on what I see, and I tell you how it is.
I agree with you on this one. Your take on this, as well as your take on the Myles Garrett situation, was on point. Now, your Colin Kaepernick, that's all over the place, but we know what that was about, Marks Kellerman.
Whole guy's history, like you'll often say, blasphemy. I don't think there's such a thing.
Of course you don't. You're an atheist.
It doesn't matter what the guy's track record was 10 years ago. You just said, what have you done for me lately? Well, who cares if Peterson won the Super Bowl a couple years ago? Well, you're right about that in a narrow sense. You have to judge people based on what they're doing. Now, you might say, hey, based on their whole history, I think Nick Saban's going to do much better going forward.
Also, let me say this. What the Portland Trail Blazers will do with Carmelo, they'll have offensive sets that will allow him to feel comfortable. They'll actually give him the rock on the elbow every once in a while and let him do his thing. There was never going to be a scenario where the Houston Rockets allow Carmelo Anthony to do that. And if they did allow an offensive play or an offensive set that was meant to cater to Carmelo, he better make that mid-range jump shot. The Houston Rockets want you to make 100% of your mid-range jumpers. If you even miss one, they're taking you off the floor.
I might say, no, the things are changing, and we can legit debate that. But there's no such thing as there's some sacred cow, Carmelo Anthony, and you can't tell the truth if you don't think he's more than the 9th best player on most NBA teams?
Well, Max Kellerman, you're mistaken. Because when a player has as ardent a fan base as Carmelo Anthony has, you're not allowed to tell the truth. You can only say what they want you to say about Melo, because they remember back when they were 8 and 9 years old, walking around with those damn yellow headbands on and the Carmelo Anthony jersey that their father bought them for Christmas, and acting as if they were Melo. That's how they think. They think like fans because they are fans. A fan is nothing but a worshiper. They don't want to hear the truth. So the fact of the matter is that Carmelo Anthony, like everything else in life, is getting older. He's no longer as proficient. He's no longer as efficient. He's found a better situation for himself, and he's taken better care of his body. I think that he's physically and mentally healthier than he's been at any portion of his career in the last 6 or 7 seasons. Probably since the 2012-2013 season when he finished second to LeBron James in the MVP voting.
That's what I thought of him. So far, in a small sample, he's proving me wrong.
I think that, first of all, I think that your argument would be more profound if you didn't go to such lengths to explain yourself, because let me come to your defense. First of all, you don't hate people. You ain't built that way. And you've never hated on Carmelo Anthony. Lala, that's my girl. You know I love me some Lala now. You're wrong about that. Max does not hate Melo. He's never hated on Melo. Period. So let's be very
Period.
very clear about that. See how simple that was. I ain't got to go through 2 minutes now. This is very, very simple. It's not true. You have the tape to back you up. You have.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, it's very obvious, especially when we view the events of the last week or so concerning you and Colin Kaepernick, that Max Kellerman is very concerned with how he's perceived by a certain strata of your viewership. There's no doubt about that.
Always rooted for Melo. You stopped believing in him,
Correct.
but you didn't hate him and you didn't root against him. So that's the point. That's number one. Number two, you're absolutely right. Melo did not deserve Offensive Player of the Week.
Not even close.
That would be James Harden. When you drop 60 in 3/4,
Three quarters,
that would be you.
So why did he get it then?
Well, because
Molly Kern, why would you ask a question like that? You're supposed to be the moderator. Those answers should already have occurred within your mind of why Carmelo Anthony was the recipient of the Offensive Player of the Week. The NBA is about narratives. It's about stories. This is something that Kyrie Irving has an issue understanding. Basketball is not just about art when you're making $35, $40 million a year. It's also your ability to be a part of a storyline that's going to attract viewers. The new NBA storyline right now that they're trying to push, especially before Christmas, when they're competing with football and they're floundering around just trying to rummage through the trash of the early NBA season to grasp how they're going to project the energy of the NBA out to the viewing audience. Well, what can we talk about? We know that LeBron is back with the Lakers, Kawhi is with the Clippers, Kyrie is over there with the Nets. We'll talk about how he doesn't get along with anybody. Oh good, Carmelo's back. Let's try to string out this Carmelo Anthony storyline, make it look as if he's a better player than he actually is. Oh good, he had a good 3 games since he's come back. We'll act as if he's the best player in the Western Conference, call more attention to him, because there are very few people paying attention to the league right now, and they're not going to until after Christmas. So that's all this is about. Plus they're trying to kind of apologize to Melo for how he was, as I've already stated, unceremoniously pushed out of the league last season. In my view, he had just as good a case for being blackballed out of the NBA as Colin Kaepernick has. Now imagine if Carmelo Anthony was the issue in the locker room that Colin Kaepernick was with the 49ers just before he started his protest. A lot of people do not understand this. He was a polarizing figure in his locker room in San Francisco before the protest. He was never a quote-unquote people person. But the quote-unquote social activism and the wokeism has allowed him to take on this fake civil rights veneer. But just getting back to Carmelo. Carmelo is very fortunate that he has a very good name and seems to be in very high standing amongst his peers. That's the only reason why he was allowed back into the NBA. I think that Kyrie and Durant wanted him on the Nets, but they were not going to pay any money for a Carmelo Anthony. Portland was so desperate that they said, you know what the hell.
Getting ready to
Thanks
get
for
to
the
that.
memories.
I'm getting ready to get to that.
Yes, Max Kellerman said thanks for the memories. That's basically what that was.
Because here it is. Luka Doncic, James Harden, one of them should have been that Western Conference Player of the Week. I would have gone with Harden, personally, me, myself.
How could you not?
think that he's just phenomenal, even though Luka Doncic is no joke. Melo did not deserve it. But I'm incredibly happy for him, because here is where I will come to the defense of Melo. I never stopped believing in him. What did I say?
You have to believe in Carmelo Anthony, Stephen A. Smith. There are only about 2, maybe 4 players in the entire NBA who will give you sit-down interviews. Carmelo Anthony is one. James Harden is another. That is why you will not say anything bad about those players on national TV. You wouldn't even think about it.
Said Melo can give you 15 to 18 a night. What is he averaging?
Right, but that's not really the question. There's never been an issue over whether or not Carmelo Anthony can give you 15 to 18 points per game. The issue has always been the shot selection and how willing he was going to be to fit into a modern NBA offense and take what are considered to be the most proficient and efficient shots on the floor in the way that they want him to take them. That's always been the issue. Carmelo can score 15 to 18 points in his sleep, but how many shots is he going to have to take to get to those points? What's going to be his shooting percentage? And what's going to be his PER while he's out there on the floor? What's going to be his plus minus? That's what they're looking at when it comes to him. He has to have relatively high proficiency numbers on offense because we know he can't guard a statue.
He's averaging 17 right now. He's averaged 22 this week. Now, 2 of those 3 victories were against Chicago. The other one was against OKC. So let's not get too out of hand about it. But it goes back to what I told y'all. See, here's the thing. Melo is an incredibly good dude, class personified, doesn't get and widely respected throughout the league. Players who played in this game got nothing but mad love and respect for him.
Absolutely.
And this notion that somehow, some way he would have had a negative impact on a team, that 450 plus players deserve to be on a roster in the NBA ahead of him, was utterly ridiculous. Then you go to route of 9, where people were looking at it and saying, Stephen A., if he...
I have no idea why Stephen A. Smith keeps trying to push this notion that Carmelo Anthony was out of the NBA because every last player in the league was better than him. Stephen A., there's something called cost effectiveness. There's something called the juice is not worth the squeeze. Carmelo Anthony at 34 years old, you already know what he has to offer. He no longer is an alpha level scorer, much less an alpha level player. So you have to ask yourself, am I going to bring Carmelo Anthony in and have him as a reserve, the 8th or 9th man, when I can bring someone in from the G League who can do just as much as he can when you combine his contribution on both offense and defense, rebounding and hustling? Carmelo's never been known for all those things. Scoring is not everything.
Make a top 9 roster spot on a team. We don't want to put a coach in a position where we're looking at a future Hall of Famer and saying, excuse me, we're going to leave you on the bench or we're going to put you in as a charity case. We don't want that. But
Stephen A., he's just been the recipient of charity. As we know, he won the Offensive Player of the Week for the Western Conference. That was charity.
I think it gets to the point, which is where I'm coming to you, Max, because this analytic stuff is where it's very, very important. I'm not getting on you about it. I just want to say something. When Melo got let go 10 games into the season, you know this probably better than me because you focus on that more than me. Analytics dudes judge stuff in 10-game increments. If you watch the decisions that are made on the NBA level, decisions are made 10 games into the season, 20 games into the season, 30 games into the season, 40 games into the season. It's not made in game 15. It's not made in game 17 or 27 or 33. It's usually in 10-game increments. It was not an accident that Daryl Morey let Melo go 10 games in. When I spoke to Melo prior to his first game in Portland, I sat up there and I reminded him about something I've been preaching to him, his brother, his wife, everybody. Attack immediately or pass immediately. Because the knocker...
Stephen A. Smith, do you really think that Carmelo Anthony was paying any attention to what you have to say about basketball? Is that what you really think? I think that it finally sunk into Carmelo Anthony's head that he's going to have to play how the coach wants him to play for whatever team he goes to. And part of that is going to be making quicker decisions. Phil Jackson never liked Carmelo Anthony's style of play because he knew that he was an unproficient black hole. That's what he knew about Carmelo Anthony. He was not proficient enough to be the center of your offense on a championship contending team. He's just not. And then he brings nothing on defense. But Carmelo is so delusional. He tried to align himself to Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or Shaq, players who were the alphas on Phil Jackson championship level teams. And those players were high level performers on both offense and defense, and they were relatively proficient. Now, Kobe Bryant was not that proficient, but he was at least 2 levels above Carmelo when it came to everything that he brought to the table. So Phil Jackson was looking at Carmelo like, dude, you're buggy. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to win with you. But Phil Jackson looked at him like, Carmelo's that chick at the bar at 2:30 in the morning trying to act like she's wife material. Like, dude, it's not going to happen that way. Be happy if I take you home.
Melo wasn't his game. It wasn't whether or not he could make a shot, could he handle, could he shoot, would he fold under pressure or anything like that. The knock against Melo was that he stalled in offense because
Wasn't a knock, it was the truth.
held onto the ball with his ball movement. Understand what's going on here. It's not that Melo is scoring, because I know he can do that. Because unless I see people blocking his shots, I believe he's going to make about 40 to 44% of his shots, and he's going to take enough where he can average 15 a night.
40 to 44% of his shots, Stephen A. Smith. If he's only shooting 40 to 44%, he better be taking a lot of three-point shots, dude.
My issue with Melo, my number one concern, my only concern, was that Carmelo Anthony, are you going to hold the ball, or are you going to tack immediately or pass immediately? And what he has been doing in Portland, he's been attacking immediately or giving it up, because they weren't going.
Once again, Stephen A. Smith, they played the Chicago Bulls twice and the Oklahoma City Thunder.
By his numbers, they're going to judge Melo by whether or not he stalls.
Listen, if James Harden gets criticized for it and he's doing it on that level, you better not stop.
So understand, if you're Lala and if you're somewhere listening, and I love the fact that she was at the game in Chicago, she did supporting her husband the whole bit.
Supporting her husband. The broad did not have anything else better to do. She's not getting any roles in Hollywood. She's approaching 45 years old, so she's just now starting to think about starting to mature as a human being. Meaning, think about someone other than her damn self. That's why she was at the game.
The son on video is a beautiful thing. But here's the thing. The beautiful part about Melo is that Melo is showing everybody, I'll do what you ask. I'm not some kind of cancerous effect.
Right.
He doesn't have the option but to do that, Stephen A. Smith. Life is about options.
The team. And
I think he tried to show that in his last 2 stops.
At age 35, with the ability to hit perimeter shots, with as many scrubs as I see in the NBA, it is a beautiful thing to see this brother back, starting, playing, and being respectable enough where he's getting that kind of respect from his peers. I'm very happy.
Listen, I'm happy for him.
And proud of him.
He's proving he's not washed. He looked washed. He's not washed.
And I
the
said
reason he got released in Houston, from everything I understand,
is because he just did not fit into that offense. With the Rockets, you have to be a very particular type of player. I have to give them credit, and I also have to give Russell Westbrook credit. He's fit in better on that squad than I thought he would have. But when you think about it, it does make a bit of sense, because Russell Westbrook takes a lot of bad three-point shots, and he does attack the basket with great ferocity. And he could do so many other things just as a overall floor player, passing, rebounding, diving for loose balls, just, picking up where others lack. That's why he fits in very well. But Carmelo Anthony, Carmelo has to make shots on any team that he's on, because he does not add much else. He's not a good passer. At this stage of his career, he's not a great rebounder, and we know that he does not play very good defense. So he has to make shots, particularly three-point shots.
That as bad as his reputation was defensively, when he showed up, his defense was even worse. They couldn't believe it. And
damn. How could Carmelo Anthony be worse on defense than you think he is? Because I think he's the worst player in the league defensively, so he was worse than that? Basically, he was just a traffic cone, huh?
This is just untenable. Now, defense like offense, you can get better at that too. It doesn't always have to stay. If you focus on that and put in the time and you just play well, that can get better too. I'm not hating on Carmelo.
Defense is about 90% effort and studying the scouting report, learning your opponent's tendencies.
He wasn't the offensive player of the week. He got the award. Good for him.
You slept on him, though.
I will say you slept on him. That's true. I don't front, but I might sleep.
You slept.
But here's the bottom line: you and I had a debate a couple years ago when I said Adrian Peterson can hope to be a souped-up Frank Gore, and you went nuts. I think over the last couple of years, Peterson would have liked to be a souped-up Frank Gore, and the reason I bring that up is because the name Adrian Peterson rings bells for the history of the league from his prime. But at a certain point, it's just a name, and he is what he is.
All right.
That's what Carmelo was for a while. He's showing more than that.
The only thing that I would say is this, and I'll close it by saying this.
That's really not a bad comparison, Adrian Peterson and Carmelo Anthony. They have a lot of synchronicities between those two.
That from you because that was age and attrition. In Melo's case, you were talking about his game
and age, based on age,
holding the ball.
Here's what I know. Lala's right.
You don't know much. Let's not worry about what you know. But anyway, brother, that's basically it. I'm not going to apologize for anything that I've stated about Carmelo Anthony quite yet. The sample size is just too small. Now, if the brother is able to maintain this level of impact for the Portland Trail Blazers and they're able to make the playoffs, then yes, I will apologize. But I do suspect that as the scouting reports become more detailed on what he can and cannot do at this stage of his career, he's going to come back down to earth. Also, right now, I'm not going to pick Portland to make the playoffs. I think that the New Orleans Pelicans actually have an outside chance if they're not too conservative with Zion Williamson. If they're content with just keeping Zion on the shelf, then of course they're not going to make the playoffs. But I do think that they have a run in them if they try. It just seems to me that, unfortunately, the New Orleans Pelicans come off as that type of team that wants to keep the gift under wraps for as long as possible. It's like, you got to unwrap it, man. You got to show that gift off to the world. They have a lot of talent on that New Orleans Pelicans squad. They should be able to make a run at the playoffs if they go all out. You have the Phoenix Suns, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're going to be competing for that 7th, 8th spot. I think that Portland's going to try to make a run. I just don't think that they're going to make it. If they do, and Carmelo's able to average, say, 18 to 19 points a game and shoot around that 45% area, 46%, I will apologize. I'll give him all the credit in the world. As of right now, I'm happy for the brother that at least he can live out his dream for a couple of more seasons. So peace.